Hello mathematicians, we're now going to have a look at summing a geometric series. So the sum of the first n terms of a GP is given by this formula here. A outside of R, the common ratio, raised to the n minus 1 over R minus 1. Now sometimes it's easier to use a different form when R is less than 1, which just involves switching around the direction of these two signs here, because when R is less than 1, that maintains this as a positive and this as a positive, but really I don't think we need to worry too much about that. So if we stick with this version here, that should get us through any situation if we're careful. So let's have a look at some examples. So the first one says the sum of the first 8 terms of a GP with A equals 2 and R equals, I'll be almost sure that should have said root 2, so we'll treat it as that. So then the sum of the first 8 terms is A outside of R to the n, so root 2 raised to the 8th minus 1 over root 2 minus 1. And I know we could go to the calculator for this, but I'm going to say we should do it with exact values because we need to practice the surds. So root 2 raised to the 8th, that's the same as 2 raised to the 4th, which is 16. So 2 outside of 16 minus 1 will be 30 over root 2 minus 1. And we know that we rationalise the denominator by multiplying by the conjugate, root 2 plus 1. So we'll have on the bottom difference of squares, so that'll be 2 minus 1, which is 1, so we haven't got a denominator. And up the top, 30 outside of root 2 plus 1. Next one, how many terms of this GP? Now if we look at that GP, we can see that A is 1, the common ratio is 3, one term divided by the previous is 3. And we want to know the value of n if we're going to get a sum of 1093. So Sn is 1093 equals A, which was 1 outside of R to the n minus 1 over R minus 1. So when we go ahead and solve this, we can see that we've got 2 on the bottom, so 2 times 1093 is 3 to the n, add 1, so 2 times 1093 plus 1 is 3 to the n, and then we'll need to apply our log rules so that we can find that power of n, unless we know our powers of 3, that value of n, unless we know our powers of 3. So if we take the log of the left hand side, whatever this is, and divide that by the log of 3, that will give us n. So I'll just work that out, and we get 7 as our answer. Now if I hadn't got a whole number, because it said how many terms, then I'd know that I'd done something wrong in my calculation. Okay, number 3, the sum of the first 6 terms is that, and the common ratio is a half. Find the 6th term. So if we plug into our formula for the sum of the first 6 terms, we can see that A is the only unknown, so we set about solving this equation. So that will give us that A is 315 times negative a half, so minus 315 on 2, and then that's going to be divided by a half to the 6th minus 1, which gives us a value of A of 160, and therefore the 6th term is AR to the 5th, which is 160 times a half to the 5th, and a half to the 5th is 1 on 32, so 160 divided by 32 is 5. So these ones out of 6J, but more importantly, what are the key concepts to remember in our sum of a GP?